Hello everyone, this is Kerrigan Hartzell. I am making my final video for our interterm class. So my topic that I chose was sex education in schools, and I am really interested in this topic because I actually did a presentation about this, or it was more like a paper. I did a policy paper and then I did a presentation for my capstone class for my major last semester about sex education in schools, and I found a lot of really compelling information. So I'm going to share that with you guys today. And I feel like this is very important. This is a really important topic, and it really has a lot bigger of an effect on our society than we would think it does just by looking at it. So a few things that I found in my research was that, well, the first story, my kind of like hook, was a story about an outbreak of syphilis in 1996 in Georgia. And pretty much this was like such a big outbreak for the time that there were over 200 teenagers that were affected, and pretty much it burst open like a lifestyle, or like the understanding of a lifestyle that their parents didn't really know they were doing, having unprotected sex, partying, things like that. And so because of that outbreak, and it was so bad, there was an investigation into it, where they discovered that the outbreak wouldn't have been as bad if the teens were educated on how to have safe sex and sexually transmitted disease or infection prevention. So in 2008, the CDC reported that 51% of all pregnancies in the United States are unintended pregnancies, meaning that over half of the pregnancies each year, people did not mean to get pregnant, which is kind of crazy. And that number even further goes up to 75% when it's just a population of 15 to 19-year-olds. So younger people are getting pregnant on accident more. So because of that, a lot of schools have decided to implement some type of sex education, but most of that is just an abstinence only perspective, which means that they're not actually teaching the students how to have safe sex. They're just teaching them not to have sex at all. And that's kind of crazy. So because of our under education, the United States ranks number one in among developed countries in teen pregnancy and sexually transmitted infection. And it's also coincidental that abstinence only is the number one perspective that's taught in the United States. So there's a few different statistics that I wanted to tell you guys because I found them to be really shocking whenever I first researched this. Because of the fact that we don't have comprehensive sex education in the United States, in the majority of the United States, 1/3 of all reported rape cases are against people between the ages of 12 and 17, and 15% of sexual assaults against teenagers actually happen while they're at school. So the researchers that I looked into pretty much were just saying that because of all of these different things, or because of our lack of comprehensive sex education, all of these different things kind of stem from that. So there's more sexual assault, there's more violence, there's more pregnancy, there's more sexually transmitted infection. So pretty much having comprehensive sex education will help prevent with all that stuff. Half of our states here in the United States mandate sex education, and of the 24 states that require education to be taught, only 10 of them require information to be taught to kids in a medically accurate way. So they could be teaching them how to have only heterosexual sex. There's nothing geared necessarily towards the LGBTQ plus community. There's nothing about transgender people. There's and then of that also includes, just teaching them, hey, it's better if you just don't have sex. The really shocking part about that is that of the 10 states that require sex education, of the 24 states that do require sex education, only 9 of them require anything about consent, which that really relates heavily to our course because, we talk a lot about that, and it's shocking to me that nine of 50 states in this country require any consent education to be taught to students. So to answer some of the questions that Macy provided for us about the final, this is very impactful to individuals. People aren't being taught how to have safe sex when they're young, so whenever they get older, they still don't maybe know what consent looks like. They maybe don't know how to do certain things, how their body works, so that is very impactful. And because every individual is affected by the sex education in a different way, that impacts our whole society. We don't know basic things. People just don't know because they were never taught it. They don't know how different parts of their body work, how different parts of the opposite sex body works. They don't know. There's a lot of things that we just don't know because we were never taught it, because it's viewed as a taboo type thing. So how does this issue intersect with other forms of oppression? I think that if you're not giving people access to basic knowledge, that's not okay. That's not something that people are going to look back and be like, oh, well, I'm so glad that whenever I was young, in my most impactful years, I didn't get taught how to have safe sex, or I didn't get taught how to have sex, period. I think that it's just like if the government knew things about different things and weren't talking to the people about it. It's just as simple as that. It's not fair to us as a country, and it's not fair to the youth. What is the call to action? I think the call to action, and the same thing that I wrote about when I had wrote this paper, the same thing that I had talked about in my presentation over comprehensive sex education, is that it needs to be implemented. It needs to be implemented in a consistent way across the country, a medically accurate way, and everyone needs to have access to it, period. I pulled up my paper here because I wanted to tell you guys, I can tell you the actual policy that I proposed whenever I did this was that because of the obvious issues that come with not having comprehensive sex education across the United States, the following policy can be proposed. The public education system must teach comprehensive sex education in order to prevent sexually transmitted infection, unwanted pregnancy, and sexual violence for this vulnerable population. So because young people are ranking highest in sexually transmitted infection, unwanted pregnancy, and sexual violence, clearly a change needs to be made. And it's not the kids' fault that they weren't taught different things. As a society, I think that we need to help each other learn different things, but we also need to make sure that we're pushing for comprehensive education for young people and old people and anyone who hasn't learned it. So that's kind of my whole thing. That was my presentation. I just feel like this is very important, and it literally impacts every single person in our country. So clearly I believe a change needs to be made. I understand that there are people who feel that it's not a school's right to do it. People just want to teach their own kids. I know that there's the perspective that by teaching sex it might encourage sex, but none of that is really true. I've done the research for my paper, but yeah, so that was my presentation. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And yeah.